Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel where we're talking all things real estate, from land wholesaling, private lending, and ground up development. In today's video, I got a question on the last video about contracts. How do you fill out the contract? What does the words mean? And I'm just going to be talking specifically to my flippers who are operating in the state of Texas. So if you are in Texas and you want to get into flipping land, or you're just interested in learning about the TREC contracts that you need to use when you're purchasing land, this is the video for you. So let's go ahead, not waste no time. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so here we go. Here is the contract that you would go to the TREC website and download, or I can just send it to you for free. So there's basically two contracts that you're going to use. If you are purchasing a single family, if you're a fix and flipper or whatever, you're more than likely going to use the 1 to 4 residential contract, right? So if you're buying a duplex, a quad, that's why it's 1 to 4 residential. And it looks very similar to this. I believe it's the exact same. It's just where it says unimproved property here, it's going to say 1 to 4 residential. And everything else is pretty much the same. So, uh, first off, you see all these numbers right here. So one, obviously the parties, right? Who's the seller? Who's the buyer? So this is where you would put that. If the seller owns the property in some type of business or whatever, just put the business name in here. Remember, when you're wholesaling, if you put your name, you want to make sure you put and or sign. So if I put my name right here, and or assigns, right? So then after that, this is going to be the actual property information. So I like to fill it out as much as I possibly can. Um, you won't be penalized if you don't put the lot, the block, the city, the county, as long as you have the address right here for them to be able to look it up when you open title. But I would recommend just filling it out. So like you might ask, how do you get this information? What you're going to do is you're going to go to your CAD site. So you're going to come here, right? So as you can see, you put an address in, it's going to give you the owners. Uh, in this case, it's a business. And here's the legal description. You have the lot, block. So lots 1 through 9. And you can put that. I'll show you where to put that. Uh, block 39, Chapman's section 3. Here's the address. So all you would do is just simply go put that information in here where it says, so like for instance, just for sake of time, so if we say lot 10, block 20, uh, let's go Chapman section, right? Or section Chapman. So let's just say it's SEC Chapman, City of Houston, County of Harris. It's Harris County. And then you would put ABC, or 11450, say ABC Street. And then you would just put it like the full address. So you can go 77051. Right. So let me just, I'm kind of anal about this kind of stuff. So, all right. So here we go. We got these two filled out. You have the lot, the block, section is in, city, county. Here's the address. Now, this is important. The sales price. Now we're talking about the sales price. You see where it says cash portion of sales payable buyer at closing. And then you put the sum, right? So this is pretty much like the cash portion you will put here. Then right here, if you're doing some type of financing, you would put it here, and then you would put the sum of it here, right? So like if you were buying a property and you were putting down 20 bands, and then you're financing the other 80, you will put 100 here. But when you're wholesaling land, it's cash, right? So you say you got the property under contract for 90,000. You would put 90,000, and you would leave that financing part blank because you're not financing anything. It's nine, you get it under contract for 90,000, right? That's your price. Then you try to sell it for 93, 95, 100, whatever number you're trying to use uh for, whatever you want, what you want to make on that deal, right? It's going to be different for each person. Some people 3,000 made in 2 weeks or a week could be worth more than trying to make 10,000 on a deal. It might take a little longer, right? So it's just a matter of what you need to do. So for the leases, I typically leave this section blank, unless the seller brings. I haven't encountered a seller uh, who has questioned section 4. So I'm not even going to give you any type of false information. I usually leave this blank. I don't assume, like when you're filling out this agreement, don't assume anything, right? So I just leave that section blank. Now, here's another important part. This is earnest money. This is where all your title information is going to go. So you can put, like, I use my escrow officer that I have a good relationship with here in Houston. We just go. So, all right, escrow agent at, then you put the name of the title company. Hard to see. All right, and then you will also, after you put the name of the title company, you will put the address. So I'll just type address. Then you write the address out, the full address. So then what you're going to do is put the amount of earnest money. So it's typically like 1%. So if you're selling, like if they're buying a lot from you for 100,000, you might want to say, okay, earnest money is $1,000, right? Um, or for your sake, if you, so this is a good point too. I wanted to explain. The title companies don't open title until they receive the earnest money, right? So you 9 times out of 10, if you are comfortable knowing that you can get the deal gone, you just have to let them know that, hey, title isn't open yet. It's under contract, but the escrow officer, they have the contracts. No earnest money has been delivered yet. So you can choose how you want to do your business. You can say, okay, earnest money is going to be $100, right? $50, whatever. And when you send the earnest money, I mean, when you send the contract to title, you can ask them for the wiring instructions, and you can just go ahead and wire the 50, $100. So that way you can have title open. And there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. It's just when you sometimes it's better to know, what I'm saying, like if there's any title issues and stuff like that before you start promoting the deal. Because if you do, say I got a deal and then the builder's like, yeah, cool, I want to pursue it. And they wire funds, it could be 1,000, 2,000, whatever, 1,800. And then titles open, and now there's a whole bunch of issues that's, going to take a while to clear up. They may, like, it's just, they may think you're a novice, right? Unless, they don't care. Like if it's a good deal, they're getting it for a good price. They probably wouldn't care. I've ran into some stuff where I've, promoted some deals before the escrow was actually opened. Like the contracts were signed between me and the seller, and the agent had the agreement. But the earnest money had not been deposited. So it's just something to think about. If you don't have, if you doing 50 or $100 out of pocket, if that's like too much of a strain on you, do it the other way. At the end of the day, if it's a good deal, the builder just want to wait for it, right? That's just, and if the title issues are getting cleared up, cool. At the end of the day, it might take an extra week, 2 weeks, whatever, depending on what the title issues are. And we'll go into I'll do a whole different video on title commitment, how to read it, and issues that could arise and how you might clear them. So again, just put the amount. So let's just say in this case, it's $1,000, right? You have 1,000. So make sure you do not fill this part out, because if you do, it says buyer shall deliver additional earnest money of. So on top of the 1,000, if let's say if you put, you might think you need to put the same amount. Now, instead of just 1,000 that needs to be delivered to open title, now you need to put in an extra 1,000, right? So you don't want to you don't want to do that. Now, here we go with section 5B. This is the termination option. Okay. You can put in here, let's say 5 days after the effective date of the contract, you have an option period to where you can back out and get your earnest money back. Right. So if you do not do this, if you don't put an option fee in to be able to get out of the deal, um, you could be held, legally liable uh, for not performing, right? So if the title's clear, everything's good, like a seller has pretty much completed what they're agreeing to in this agreement, and then you're unable to close, and it's at the seller's discretion. It doesn't mean automatically like, they're going to sue you or something like that. It's just, you need to know that, because this is people's property, right? This is a very serious thing. You want to make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. So if you don't feel comfortable, um, on your first few deals, like you put your $50, your $100, just say, I'll do a 5-day option fee. So that's something you need to think about. I typically don't do option periods and option fees. The only time I would do it uh, is like if I had a builder in a situation where uh, the title wasn't open, or title wasn't, title wasn't open yet. I would be like, I would just go ahead and put, okay, instead of putting it here, I'll show you what you do. You'll just come down here, and I know I'm skipping, but just bear with me. I don't want to forget this. So in a special provisions section, you would just put uh buyer will be able to back out of contract and keep earnest money if clear title isn't delivered, right? Like you can put anything that you want to modify, you just put it in a special provision section. So just going back up. Now, here's another important part. This is the actual title policy and survey. So here, this is where you're going to basically put who's paying for title, closing costs, essentially. So if you negotiate that with a seller, like, hey, look, I'm covering your closing cost. And, typically the end buyer purchases the survey if the seller doesn't have one already. So however you want to, structure your deals and how you get them done with sellers, uh, if the seller is not saying anything, I'm always like tell them, okay, cool. You're paying for your own closing cost. Now, like after you get the commitment back, you're going to be able to kind of see what the closing cost is or what the settlement is beforehand. And if like something's happening and it's like it'll sure up to close your deal, then I would say, in the special provision section, um, you can leave this blank and go down there and put uh Savion is paying 50% of seller's closing cost at closing, right? That's something that you can put in there. Then when you scroll down here, where it says, so we're at section 6C, this is survey. So like I said, typically buyer covers the survey. But everything's negotiable, guys. Like, you can negotiate, hey, if you pay for the survey, I'll cover 50% of your closing costs, right? Your title. Or I might just cover title, right? So it just kind of depends on what's more important to you. You can negotiate, hey, you pay 50%, I'll pay half your closing costs if you pay half of the survey, right? So, you know, or you can have it to where maybe your end buyer, if they cover everything, they'll just get reimbursed at closing out of the seller's proceeds, right? So like when they're issuing, when title starts issuing checks out, whatever, they'll title will take the money out and give the seller the remaining, right? Not like you have to rely on the seller to pay you. So that's something to think about. But yeah, that's going to be in here, and it kind of tells you like how many days. Uh, Title is really not going to let you purchase a survey before they've given you a clear title. So, I mean, when you think about that, you can always, I love to go in the special provision sections. Like sometimes you may leave this blank and say survey will be purchased once clear title is delivered, like, or a survey will be purchased by buyer, you know, once title is delivered, clear title is delivered. So like that's how I would word it. And then obviously you make sure you put your address in here. You don't have anything to fill out right here. But then okay, property conditions, buyer accepts the property as is, or maybe if there's like they've been using a lot as storage or something, you just click here and put seller has agreed to have lot cleared, well, or lot emptied, uh, by so and so date, right? By January 5th, 2025. So but if nothing, if it's just vacant, whatever, boom, just go ahead. Buyer accepts property as is. And then here, so these seller disclosures, you don't know this. So don't put is not aware, is not aware, is not, or is. You don't know. The seller probably doesn't even know, right? So always leave that blank because when they're reading through this, they may they may be aware of some of this stuff, maybe not be aware of, you know, the other stuff. So like let them fill this out. And then you don't need to worry about this because these are typically off-market deals. Um, I would recommend if you are like kind of using an agent to maybe market to their end buyers, or if they're bringing you a client and y'all getting a deal closed or they're doing a novation, just do have a JV agreement on the side between you and the agent. Because when you put too much in the contract and it's too much to read, it's a shit show and time kills deals. So then another most important one is the closing date. Make sure you put your closing date. I mean, you know, just December, where you see that? December 26th, 2024, or like just whatever. Make sure you put your closing date. Now we're down to the special provision section. I've even sometimes, uh, a couple of times actually, where I had the seller and the end buyer both sign this form, and I just put in here Savion Miller is due $15,000 at closing because I didn't put my fee on top of it. I just gave him the property at the agreed upon price of me and the seller, but he initially was going to buy it from me at that price. So that's something that you can do. I don't recommend it because you just want the buyer in a, like I've had a situation where a guy went around me, skip trace, found the owner and was trying to like take the deal from under me and go direct to him. You know, so like you can't assume people are going to do business the right way. You just can't make assumptions. You always want to be protected. When you're dealing with this business, get it in writing. If your name isn't anywhere on those contracts, you're not going to get paid any money. Well, the person could pay you still, but legally it's like you're not on the contracts. You're not on any of the agreements. So you got to make sure there's JV agreements. You need to make sure, um, you just need to make sure that, like I mentioned earlier, your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted. And I would recommend when you're filling out your first few deals, have somebody who's experienced, you know, who's what that can be an agent, a escrow officer. Reach out to them people and have them review this before you send it to the seller. Then once they say cool, when you're doing it to sending it to the end buyer, well, you'll send an assignment of contract. So you won't send this one to the end buyer. But when you do that, may have somebody review it first so you're not making mistakes and you don't look novice, right? And then at that point, there's really nothing else for you to do but put it in DocuSign, send it to the seller, send it to yourself. Y'all both execute, get title open. So, um, I mean, I hope this helped whoever asked to do a video on how to fill it out. But yeah, guys, for land, unimproved property contract. This is the contract that you want to use in the state of Texas. It doesn't matter if you in San Marcos, it doesn't matter if you in Fort Worth, doesn't matter if you're in Midland, Lubbock, Houston. This is the contract that you use. And the reason why you want to use this contract is because this is the contract that the escrow officers are used to reading. Real estate agents, they're used to reading these. Even your end buyers who are builders, because I'm sure they list their properties themselves or have a team of agents. When they sell the property, they're going into an agreement with like a first-time home buyer, FHA buyer, whatever. These are the contracts that they see when they're in the state of Texas. So it makes for such a smoother transaction as opposed to you using some generic one that you may have downloaded online. I don't recommend that at all. If you're in Texas, uh, even if you live outside the state of Texas and you want to wholesale land in Texas, get the TREC form. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section and I'll do the best I can to explain. I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Want to hit the ground running for next year. Get prepared now. Start mapping out your markets now. Start trying to network with builders now. You're on your phone anyway, on social media. You may as well be following some builders on Instagram. If they have their contact information there and it's a drop down, go ahead and write the number down, write the name of the company, get their email, build you out a list, start commenting, start engaging. All right. And if you found this video helpful, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be trying to release at least 3 videos a week for you all. But yeah, you just got to give me the topics of what y'all want to know about. I think I'll probably do a series on like private lending, how you can obtain financing. If you're looking to do new construction or partner with a builder, how that would need to be structured for you to, get approved for the financing. And then we'll talk about ground up new development, how to, entitle land, replat land, uh, essentially do all the horizontal work and then get ready for the actual vertical. So that's all I have for you today. With that being said, let's get out there and let's close some deals in 2025.